Well, today is a big day in Anambra as we expect the supplementary election that will be taking place in over 300 polling units in Ihiala local government area. You agree with me that the election wasn't concluded on Saturday last weekend as a result of some irregularities in some areas, basically in Ihiala, where INEC officials couldn't really arrive at the scene, and of course election materials weren't really available at the scene, and issues of insecurity. Well, just as the chief returning officer of the gubernatorial race in Anambra did say, the vice chancellor of the University of Calabar, Professor Florence Obi, said that satisfying constitutional provisions and ensuring that no one is disenfranchised, and looking at the huge number of potential voters in Ihiala, which we have about over 140,000 potential voters, it became imperative, expedient to ensure that the election holds today. And reports have it starting 10 a.m. and concluding at 4 p.m. today, to ensure we have safe polls, to ensure we have a credible polls where we can say it's transparent. We had issues of the bimodal voter accreditation system that some applauded while others condemned. Well, discussing all over this, I'm having distinguished personalities with me, and alongside we're going to be talking about the Maina Gate, where the court sentenced him for 8 years in jail yesterday, and this was really revealing, and a lot we're going to be having in that discussion. But we're going to be starting off with the gubernatorial election that's holding today, the supplementary polls in Ihiala. And starting from my extreme left, I have the immediate past chairman, ASU, Uniben chapter, and he is the HOD of Chemistry Department, University of Benin, Professor Julius Iyasele. Thanks for coming, Professor Julius.
Thank you, viewers, and then good morning, Philip, for having me.
All right, thank you. And I still have the presence of a lecturer, University of Benin, Political Science Department, and he is Neville Obakedo. Thanks for coming, Neville.
Thank you for having me this morning. Good morning, viewers and listeners at home.
Well, as the show progresses, we're going to be having the presence of a human rights activist, Solomon Idiogbe. And before that comes to fusion, I think we'll be discussing with you first, Professor Julius Iyasele. You've been following reports, you've been following the activities happening in Anambra polls, and today we have the supplementary election taking place at Ihiala. Yeah. We have 18 political parties gunning for the seat of governance in Anambra, and among the 18 political parties, we are seeing 3 huge parties popping up in terms of figures. What do you make of this as it pertains to the deepening of electoral integrity?
Well, I want to congratulate, as it were, another language I've been added to additional the Anambarians, like I'm hearing from everywhere. Just to congratulate them after all the election has come now. Of course, you know, in preparation towards this election, all that have been going on. Of course, I know Anambra is one of the 5 southeastern states that where IPOB over these years have been holding sway. That is the separative movement wanting Biafra and all that. So, but what I have seen, what has played out now shows that what we understand here is actually violence, seriousness, force, because what played out before this election warned everybody, and of course told everybody that anything can happen. And so, like you will say in local parlance, everybody had maintained. And so the election, to some extent, a great percentage is peaceful. I want to also give the umpire, the INEC, the kudos, the way they have conducted this election. It also informed them, they also warned ahead that, look, this is the holy bolly, this is a boiling point. This state can make or mar that institution. And so they have done very well. And from the foregoing, the results that we have seen, and then the minimal crisis that has happened on the field, everybody is pleased with it.
Okay.
But then the only down point there is the voters apathy, because just about 25% of persons have participated in this election. And so what that means is that there's something still cooking.
All right, thank you very much, Professor Julius. We're going to be having an extension of that as the show progresses, but we're going to be taking a short break. Do stay tuned.
TMI, every opinion counts.
It's still this morning on ITV, and we're looking at deepening electoral integrity with a special focus on the Anambra gubernatorial polls as we are having supplementary elections gunning today and seeing how that will unfold. You agree with me that there has been tension in the southeast over the sit-at-home order given by the proscribed group IPOP. And well, while we had a break, we had the opportunity to enjoy the presence of a human rights activist, Solomon Idiogbe. Thanks for coming, Solomon.
Thank you very much. Good morning, viewers at home.
All right, before I come to you, Solomon, let's get the useful thoughts of the political scientists we have. Nebula Bakedo, you've been following what has been happening, like what the former immediate past chairman of ASU said, that with a security challenge in these areas, it was expected that we're going to be having a very huge voter apathy, but we had 25%. What do you make of this from the political scientist angle?
Anambra State, that is having Oka as its headquarters, or state capital, the world headquarters of the struggle for Biafra. It's a state that has created certain words in our Nigerian political lexicon. The election that is conducted in Anambra State right now, which is governorship election. Similar election is conducted in Edo State, not when general elections are conducted in Osun State, in Bayelsa State, in Kogi State.
Okay.
The foundation for the alteration of the governorship elections in Nigeria was laid in Anambra State. Anambra State is a state that has been characterized from 1999 to date with the issue of voter apathy. The reason is because there are a lot of intra and intercommunal conflicts in Anambra. And during electionary campaigns, because of movement of weapons, official and unofficial, people decide to withdraw from the political process so that they will not be victims of the political process in the name of the crisis that they have between and among their communities. Anambra State is a hotbed for assassinations and secret court activities.
A lot.
Anambra State is a state where politicians can do anything to survive. And the case of Ngige and Uba comes to mind. The case of Uba Binuju and I cannot remember the name of the politician that backrolled this election. That is the governor that was there before Ngige.
Okay.
The list is long. And so when we are looking at electoral integrity right now in Anambra, in the context of the activities of IPOP that I said is headquartered in Anambra, and the activities of unknown government that are also directly linked with IPOP.
One would have expected that the voter apathy will be huge.
People to come outside and say they want to come and participate in the electoral process, especially when there's heavy deployment of security agents to the state, because the people know themselves in Anambra, and that after election they are likely going to be targeted by the unknown government if they come outside defiance of their order not to come out.
So you seem to be saluting the courage of the voters who poured out in large numbers.
Those who came out really wanted to participate in the governance of their state. because I believe they have the belief that if there were no elections in Anambra, there would be a state of emergency where an administrator will be appointed for the state.
Which would augur well for the state.
Yes. So that the people came out to vote, even though the election is inconclusive as we speak, we believe that at the end of the day, the election will be concluded and the winner will be declared. I salute the courage of the Anabrarians for coming out to participate in the electoral process. I salute the courage of INEC for, against all odds, the destruction of their material, their offices, and so on. They still came outside to conduct the election.
Okay, these are commendations coming for the electoral umpire. Even the security agencies
who, in the midst of the brutality of IPOB and unknown government, they still risk their lives to come to Anambra State.
Okay, let's just hope that you will continue to salute the courage of others too, basically as we look at the bimodal voter accreditation system. I don't believe you'll be saluting the courage of that, the beavers.
The issue of the beavers that people have been talking about. Nigeria is not a technology-driven country. We are trying to copy from what is happening outside. And if we are copying from what is happening outside in terms of technology, we need to test run.
Okay.
Test running will not be maybe just take one local government in one state or take 10 local government in one region, then test run. You have to test run your technology in an election of this nature.
Okay, thank you. I'll come back to you for you to expand on that. I'll come back to you.
Have a benchmark for succeeding in other elections.
All right. Let's take a bite on all of this process.
Anambra State, it's been on news when it comes to elections. It's not been a very heavy one. I can't recall any election conducted in Anambra State that has been very peaceful. It has not been marred with either violence, voters' apathy, irregularities. So much so that even a sitting governor in the history of Nigeria was kidnapped. In the case of Ngige, as mentioned, the governor was taken to Shiran to go and take oath, if you remember.
Across a casket.
And a lot has happened. Anambra has been on the news. Well, if you recall, like he mentioned rightly, Anambra is the state of the Ikemba Inewi, the leader of the then Biafra movement against the Nigerian troop. Suffice to say that the Anambarians would not want his memory to quickly be forgotten by allowing other party to take over Anambra. As we all know, that's nice in words that Anambra is Abga and Abga is Anambra. And so I was really frightened at the initial stage, looking at the killings, the issue of the ESN, the IPOB, the unknown men, etc., etc., etc. But unfortunately, they came out to speak again in one voice that they are Southeasterners, they are Igbos, and that they believe in their movement. I come to look at the candidates as they were. The only candidate that went to visit the IPOB leader was Soludo. And so I'm sure that also spoke for him during the elections. But having said that, persons like Solomon Guber initially was really frightened because I was one of those who suspected.
You expected it was?
Yes, suspected and believed very strongly that the government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria was deliberately hiding insecurity in the area just to have a bite or a grip, if you like, of Anambra adding to Imo. Because it was not impossible to have totally tackled, at least extensively, the issues of insecurity in Anambra State. It got to a point where two governments in Anambra, the federal government to say move, and those ruling Anambra, you know, the non-state actor, will give a law, sit at home. Those who dared met their Waterloo, you know, unexpectedly. A girl who could dare an operation show of force And you know what an operation show of force is? It's not just the military, it's not just the police, it's not just NSCDC, it's not just immigration or customs. It's a combination of both the military, police and paramilitary groups showing force to say we are ready. They attacked them. Broad daylight was enough to create fears in the mind of the Anambra people. Considering too that there was a sit-at-home order from 5th to 10th of November. However, the game changed when a few hours, so to speak, to the elections, an order was given
to suspend the
sit-at-home. And I'm sure there was a signal following it.
Okay.
Because it got to that stage that the fear of the unknown gunmen or the fear of the ESN or the IPOB was the beginning of wisdom in Anambra State.
Okay.
And as such, when they gave an order for voters to go out and vote, I am sure the order was clear. Go out and vote. The only man that seemed to be, I'm not looking at, yet looking at the candidate as they were, but the only man that belonged to it, because Southeast is Abga. The only man that belonged to the regional party should enjoy the vote of the Southeast, and I'm sure that's what spoke for.
Okay, thank you. I think it's quite awesome that the distinguished personalities on set applauded the performance of INEC and basically also the proscribed group for suspending the sit-at-home order. But well, let's look at the process. Let's look at the beavers, for instance. You know, this happens to be a new one, and under the leadership of Professor Mahmood Yakubu. What do you make of this development? Do you condemn it or do you applaud it?
We condemn because it has not been effective.
Oh.
It's not been effectively applied. Like my colleague discussant here has said, the Nigeria is not technologically driven. We are not yet there. We are not ICT nation. And so that is the problem we are currently facing. And the Anambra election, I don't think is the type where you will be testing and a process, a material like that. Because it is of a kind. The Anambra election is of a kind.
Most especially when it took almost an hour or even more when the Minister of Employment and Labor, Chris Ngige, was being captured. Look at even Soludo himself.
He waited from 9 a.m. in the morning till around 5:30 before he was able to cast his vote.
But I don't think these are teething challenges that come up with the initial stage.
Oh, of course. It's because although maybe some trainings went on, but for how many hours and all that. These are, you see, to engage such an equipment required, it took some months of training and testing, evaluating and all that before you go to such field. So it's unfortunate that it has happened, but then of course we have also tried. So it's for INEC now, that's Mahmoud, to return back to the draw board, to go fine-tune before, because it's supposed to be an advantage. We are all asking that one day we can go like we walk into an ATM to cast our votes, so that people, even outside here, can also vote and all that. We are hoping that that will become the state of Nigeria.
Okay.
But they must go back to fine-tune, because it didn't actually work very, very well.
Okay, Ab initio, the way the issue started in the southeastern states, there were these fears that the voter apathy could even be much increased. But good enough, you applauded that level where it got reduced. And now we have 3 candidates that's really uppermost in the process. We have the Abga, Soludo. We have that of APC, Anduba. Of course, we have this Valentine Ozigbo. All right, so now, what then, because we look at the spread, we look at the spread in terms of Charles Soludo, the Abga candidate, that covered about 18 local governments winning that. And then we have that of the APC, 1 local government, and of course, PDP. What is the relevance of the Ihiala local government, the supplementary elections? Because some are saying, it seems one party and its candidate is already coasting to victory.
Yes, of course, for morality. You cannot disenfranchise the entire citizens of a local government. That is one. Number two is that the umpires themselves couldn't activate election in that local government because of the security threats. Number three is that the margin that Soludo has given to the next opponent, that is Ozigbo,
okay,
is not as much as the number of registered voters in Ihiala local government.
Oh, of course, yes.
And so because of that, of course, you need to return back. You need to do a supplementary election. And that is what is holding from this morning.
Okay.
And it's very, very necessary.
Very necessary.
Yes.
But do you expect a pendulum swing?
I don't think so. Let me tell you why. You see, he has, my colleague has put it succinctly. Anambra is Abga. You can't change that. The bosses that run for the plebeians in the state there is clearly written Abga and then the hand drawn on the so Abga is Anambra. Anambra is Abga. You remember that Abga is an offshoot of, it was started by the warlord, that is Odumegwu Ojukwu himself. Do you understand? He came by Newe. Of course. So this, and what he stood for is what IPOB is still driving today. That is it. That's the Biafra question, the separative question.
Okay.
Do you understand? And then let me tell you also, you see, many of them said IPOB vacated the sit-at-home order because they didn't want in any way the federal government to manipulate and then enthrone APC government in that state. Remember that at the inception of APC and many of these other political parties, when we were coming back to this democratic, people said that that party belongs to a particular ethnic class. Do you understand? And then what is being the battle in Anambra now is against Islamism and all that. And they said they want to be on their own. And so there's no way that the Anambra man or persons will allow any other party. If they will allow, like you have seen, PDP, not APC in Anambra. And it has played out in the results. But however, Abga is still the party to beat in Anambra State.
Okay, well, he just said from what played out, PDP even following closely to Abga, not APC. Now, what do you make of this? Do you see any connotation that may be arising from the future government of the winner of this election?
First and foremost, I want to say that there is no state in Nigeria that is having any political party as its base. That is to say, this state is like the permanent home of social political party.
Okay.
I'll give you an instance before I come to the issue at stake. One, from 1999 until recently, Cross River State was a PDP state until the governor, with the paraphernalia of the office of the governor and the resources coming to the state, decided to move from PDP to APC. As we speak, Cross River State is APC state. And so the governor, before he will leave office, he will try as much as possible. And the politicians that are in the state, for the purpose of remaining relevant, they would like to be working closely with the governor. And they will now be in APC until after the election. If APC retains the state remains APC. There was a time River State was APC. Even though we know that with the structure of ground here, it was a kind of PDP struggle. So we can be talking of struggles of political party and not like permanent home of a political party.
Okay.
Now, Anambra State is a PDP state. Let me say it that way. It's a struggle of PDP. But you see that those that make the party to be PDP state, they are scattered now. Like the YPP governorship candidate. what is his name? No, YPP is
you mean
Ifan Yuba. Now, he was a die-hard member of PDP. Even the contract to supply kerosene and all the rest of them, I did under President Jonathan's administration. He did in the name of PDP. But today, he is representing another political party in Anambra at the National Assembly. And Guber, former governor elect in Anambra, was a PDP member, and the role that the Ubas played during the period of Ngige, they played in the name of PDP. And even Chasoludo, that is likely to be the governor-elect of Anambra State as we are speaking right now, was a PDP member, and he has contested that PDP. So we cannot categorically say because Nke Baunewi, the warlord of the Biafra movement, because he's from there, the people want his legacy to remain. That now, because he was leader of ABGA or he formed ABGA, that PDP Anambra State is ABGA.
So you differ from what the immediate past chairman of ASU said.
Anambra, the politicians in Anambra, they are spread across different.
Okay, but you seem to see a sense of ideology coming into the structure.
There's a question. All right. All the previous governors.
Okay, you still have the floor, but let him just throw this in.
Through which political party?
Even the ones in Imo and Abia.
Am I the one that's having?
You have the floor. You have the floor. You have the floor.
So, when we are talking about Anambra is a land.
Okay.
It's a land. It's a political space in Nigeria, where the politicians they pitch their tent towards any political party that will favor them at a particular political dispensation.
Okay.
And I've given an example with that woman, Senator Ekunife, the Ugige himself, who is now minister, the Guber, all of them at different points of the political issue of Anambra State. They're either in PDP, in this party, or in that party. So that is by the way. We are talking about Anambra State, and we know that Anambra State, as we speak, if we want to define it in political discourses, it's an ungoverned state. It's an ungoverned space in the Nigerian political system. Why do we say it's an ungoverned space? There is a security gap in Anambra State, which we have traced just now, to IPOB, to unknown government, to intra and inter-communal conflict, to secret court activity and political assassination and the rest of them. And now, even though when we are talking about ungoverned space or spaces, even though you have government presence, if the government presence at local government level, if the government presence at state level tend to be so weak that non-state actors now monopolize violence.
That's where I'm going.
Yeah, they now monopolize violence to the extent that security agencies that are supposed to be legitimate, that are supposed to use legitimate use of force to compel obedience from the state, they are now catching cold when the non-state actors are sneezing. It raises a fundamental question about that region, number one, about the activities of government at the federal level, number two, and about the need for the government to play politics of inclusion and not of exclusion.
Okay, mostly at the point where they even picked Saturday as a school day, as against what the government really established. So showing that non-actors seem to be having sway.
Yes, the bottom line is that where we are trying to, in this discourse, we are trying to mix the politics of governorship election with the politics of a region, which is the Southeast region, that have been disregarded in Nigeria politics in terms of opportunity to ascend to highest positions of authority in Nigeria.
Okay.
And if we are doing that, we have to now situate it in context.
Okay.
And we are going to separate this governorship election from the politics of exclusion that is being played.
Okay, in 1 minute, I want you to tell, from your perspective, where is this leading to? Because you made mention of the state actors and non-actors that seem to be having a challenge in Anambra State. Do you see the way the ideology is popping up just now in Anambra? Do you see a position where a government will be able to suppress the non-actors in the nearest future when in power?
When we are talking about non-state actors right now, in relation to Anambra State.
Yes.
The non-state actor activity is not only restricted to Anambra. If you go to Imo State, where you have APC, we have this issue of unknown government.
Yes.
Traced to IPOB.
Yes, I'm talking about Anambra.
Yes, I will come back to Anambra. So if we are discussing the issue of unknown government, we are discussing the issue of Biafra. We should discuss it holistically as it relates to the 5 states in the southeast.
Okay.
But when we are talking about Anambra just now and how election was conducted in the midst of insecurity, with statement from these non-state actors, IPOB, or no government, that people should go and perform their civic responsibility. I believe that there were some forms of behind the scene horse trading that first of all made even Chasoludo as the governorship candidate of ABGA to go and visit Nnamdi Kanu. And I also believe that there are some forms of agreement about how the government of Anambra State will be formed under ABGA with Chasoludo as the governor. That is a way of trying to resolve the crisis of politics and governance in Anambra, which we must separate from the politics of secession and Biafraism in the southeast.
Okay.
That's the point.
Okay, I want you to comment. I want you to comment on the beavers. Now, there has been issues. He even said that it's not quite commendable, but some say, well, as a teaching challenge, this can be done with, the challenge that is coming up with the beavers. And most especially, you know, a lot of persons welcomed the embrace by the National Assembly on the transmission of results in elections electronically. Do you seem to differ from that?
Philip, if you recall, once upon a time, we were on set together on this issue of electronic transmission.
Of course, yes, I remember that.
And I'm very sure you also remember my
your viewpoint. Of course, yes.
Today, I've been indicated
all right.
that it is clear that Nigeria is not ripe enough to embark on electronic voting. However, it is the way to go. I'm sure you were all in town yesterday, and those of you who have Airtel lines could tell the story how beautifully Airtel line worked yesterday. I don't know about Nigeria, but in those states that I noticed,
yes,
people were complaining. That is the problem with the givers. First, recall that NCC came out at the National Assembly to say they cannot guarantee electronic transmission, electronic voting until the federal government is able to upgrade to at least 3G network.
That was a statement of fact.
And that not until that is guaranteed, they as NCC cannot advise and will not be a part of it, because even the network providers cannot guarantee. And then when they had a meeting with the network providers, they all made their several marketers now. We can deliver. And of course, we can see what the beaver almost cost Anambra election. And if it was not well managed, it was capable of creating more crises.
Yeah, obviously.
Like Chairman Emeritus mentioned, it is not an election like Anambra that you test equipment like that. Even though Melvin, I tend to agree with him that you must test in main elections.
You mean Neville?
And Melvin, in main elections, you will understand that an Anambra election was and still is a very sensitive election that the Nigerians must be very careful of. But having said that, well, so as not to just throw the baby and the bathwater away,
okay.
I would say kudos to the courage of INEC for testing waters in Anambra with beavers.
So you seem not to believe that this should be the right way to go in 2023 election?
No, I do. Like, there are more elections to be conducted before 2023. But we have seen the first hiccup. I'm sure they should do more to improve. Of course, that's how card readers started.
Yeah.
And even till now, we still have those hiccups.
Of course.
So, yeah. But what I'm saying is that the Nigerian government should invest in technology. It is because, like my brother here mentioned, that Nigeria is not a technological-driven country. We are not tilting towards technology. We are only tilting towards corruption and, you know, emasculation. I mean,
emasculation.
But don't forget, it's a developing country.
well,
I think we should remember the divides. We have the developed and the developing. So you don't expect the developing to have that much saturation that the developed.
We are par with India.
For how long shall we continue to be called a developing country when countries like Dubai were nowhere when the Nigerian as a country, Nigerian state was already you know, swimming in wealth.
Yeah.
In fact, affluence. When India was a poverty-stricken country, Nigeria was already swimming in affluence and influence. And so let's not talk about developing nation and you're telling me that a grown-up man is still crawling with sticks. You know, so I haven't mentioned that. Let me quickly situate it. That Ihala that I know, that's much like Oka, the headquarters of Anambra State, is Abga. In fact, an Ihala person told me yesterday that an average Ihala person is Abga. And like my brother was trying to say, one of the things like he mentioned is that some set of persons saw APC, ACN, AD as a regional party.
NCNC.
The other political party that now merged as a regional party with ACN that now formed the APC, as it were. It's a marriage of convenience, as it were, that created APC.
Okay.
And when you talked about Cross River State being an APC state today, it's not an APC state.
That is it.
Because the governor that came got his vote via PDP, but as a state governor, he has a right to move.
Okay.
Because that's what the Constitution of Federal Government provides for.
So you don't agree? You don't agree with Neville?
No,
in that regard.
No,
okay. Okay. Let's not start this divide. Let's not start this divide because we're almost wrapping this topic up.
Let's not come back.
State is a PDP state.
It is not. See, it is. You don't determine a state or a party state.
Okay.
By saying because the governor got a party ticket.
Let it settle. Let it settle.
From a certain political party and now move the structure. You have not even tested another election after that because as I speak, I was in Cross River for almost 2 weeks. I know the reactions of Crossiverians.
Thank you, Solomon Guber. I think. No, I won't allow you to react because you just initiated another topic that we should talk about.
You can't take IPOP effect away from politics.
Okay.
There's no way you can separate it.
In Southeast. Now look at what is happening in Imo State. And you think it's comfortable that the Southeasterners are not rebelling against the APC government in Imo State?
All right.
How did in the first place those who are now, yes, of course, I agree to an extent that the next party that any Southeasterner can teach towards is PDP by nature. But you cannot take away the fact that the Southeast is particularly
thank you.
An Abga
thank you, Solomon.
Region.
Thank you, Solomon. You've articulated the point.
Yeah, so it is not too easy.
Whether it's practically an Abga region or not, I think that's a debate for another day.
We have to separate party politics.
Thank you. Thank you, Neville. Thank you, Neville.
To analyze.
Thank you, Neville. I will remember this guest. I will remember this set of guests.
Crying for self-determination. If assuming we have Biafra today, are we not going to be having different political parties?
Okay, thank you. I think you have the floor now. You have the floor now.
Yes, those who talked said IPOB vacated that position just because they didn't want by any means an enthronement of APC government in Anambra. See, you can't take for now away the effects of Ikemba away from the politics of the Southeast. The 5 states in the Southeast are still there, clothed in any way by the effects of the war, the Biafran war.
All right.
So you can't separate what IPOB is doing away from ABGA.
Thank you, Julius.
That Soludo went to visit Kanu is enough signal for all of us to know that excuse me, today, even if you go to the southwest, can you separate what is going on there, or the persons there, away from Obafemi Awolowo, from Ikene? You cannot. See today.
Okay, thank you very much, Julius Iyasele, Professor Julius Iyasele.
Yes.
Well, this happens to be the intrigues behind the topic we're just discussing, and we're going to be putting an end to this, but we just hope that the supplementary elections that will be taking place in about 326 polling units or thereabout in Ihiala local government area really holds, and we want to see it holding peacefully. And reports have it that it starts at 10 a.m. and closes at 4 p.m. But sometimes I want to wonder why it wouldn't start at 8. It doesn't mean that we can't do that. But well, we want to appreciate the fact that in spite of the insecurity threats, in spite of the expectations of huge number of voter apathy, we hope to see a very good play, a fair play into the supplementary election. Well, that put paid to that aspect. Then we're going to be looking at the Maina Gate, where yesterday reports have it, even in the court sentence, where the former pension boss was bagged 8-year jail term. Well, as bad as it is, or as good as it is, we look at the need where issues concerning the funds that were supposed to be given to pensioners to enjoy the fruits of their labor. In the course of that, a lot of pensioners couldn't enjoy the fruits of their labor. They died out of frustration, just like what the judge also said in court. And it was expected that, well, a huge number of years, like 14 years, for instance, will be given to the former boss. But somehow, according to what the judge said, he pleaded for mercy, and he was touched by that and reduced it to 8-year jail sentence. What do you make of all of this process? Do you see that as commendable? Neville?
Well, when we are talking about Maina Gate, we are talking about the perverse and trench corruption in our country, and the failure of government to take appropriate action to punish severely those who are responsible for corrupt activities in our country. In the case of the pension board that relate to Maina, you talked about people that died, those who have continuously served this country. They were not able to get their pension and they died because of the corrupt tendencies of Maina and several other persons in various positions across the country. Now, the first thing that, if I were to be the judge, I would look at the charges, which I believe that Justice Abank looked at, I will look at the charges, I will look at the provisions of the law for the punishment for each of the charges, and I will make my position known. And I believe that was what the judge did. But what I do not agree with the judge about is that the man pleaded for mercy, and it insists by the outcome of the judgment that he was granted mercy, when he himself did not grant mercy to those who work for this country and are in the grave without getting their benefit. He did not have mercy on them, and he should not have had mercy on them. The judge would not have had mercy on them.
Well, this is not a platform for us to debate on the judgment, as the judge said. But let's just look at
This is an open court.
Okay, seriously.
The judge has passed judgment on the basis of law.
All right.
Now,
But
what I like about the judgment is this. Before I talk about what I don't like about the judgment, as I was saying just now, that the prison, that is the imprisonment, will start from
2019,
and is to run concurrently. That means
about 3 years gone.
the man is almost completing
It's J10.
It's J10. So it's very funny, but that is the judgment.
All right.
It's only
We can't.
court that
Yeah.
can now reverse the judgment.
Of course, yes.
But what I like about the judgment is this: the reform that is going to make to federal government, the shutting down, the closure,
The seizure of the properties too.
Yes, the company should wound up according to the judgment.
The seizure of the property.
The seizure of the property. I like those ones. And what the government should do is to go and trace the people that they were supposed to pay that money. As the money is going to be refunded, they should look for the people that owe that money.
All right, thank you.
Pay the money to family members.
Thank you so much, Guber. In 2 minutes, your reaction to that.
Nigerian political system, economic, judicial system, or executive issues are very delicate.
Yes, of course.
But I would say that I'm not impressed with the judgments. Especially when the judge now said that for the fact that his salary haven't looked at the monies so far.
We never amount to that.
Yes, that his salary as a civil servant
Can never
have amounted to that. How did they tell you it was salary issue that they're bringing for that? His actions, his negative actions.
No, again, but that justifies him by him saying that. That justifies the fact that the money was stolen. That's only the point that the judge was making.
That's where we are going again. It's just the same thing as when the committee that screened the supposed INEC representative, the APC member who was supposed to go from Delta, the lady, the social media person for APC, and he said it is because somebody is already in INEC from her state, so she's not qualified. Not because she's a card-carrying member of the People Party. They are two different things. As much as judgment is passed, I'm only trying to tell you that it is the same reason that the judge could go back and say his 7 J10 should start since 2019.
So what you're saying is that you expect more severe punishment to serve as a deterrent in the future.
When people commit crime that is against humanity, the belief is say, simply put, if a child misbehaves, teach the child
a corresponding
punishment,
yeah.
So that next time the child will know that people are in the habit of stealing money because they know they can buy their way through.
Okay.
Look at the billions that Mena stole. Look at the money for litigations by EFCC in prosecuting Mena for years. At a point he absconded. At a point he came back.
That's one part of his cases. So he has other cases.
That's why.
In the end, if you look at it.
Okay, so that means there may be more sentences.
As much as we expect.
But the sentences may run together concurrently. Like what the judge said. There were a lot of sentences, but they are to run concurrently.
But those have not been handled.
All right. The earlier we start setting the agenda for them, the better.
Okay, thank you.
We do not expect such judgment in subsequent trials where you not talk. Initially in Nigerian justice system, it was plea bargain. You understand?
Okay, thank you very much.
Now we are also going there using this by now. Judgment should be given not on sentiment, on the issue, so that those who do bad, they will not say sentence day for the bad way.
Thank you, Professor Julius.
Yes, Abdul Rashid Mena, corruption personified individual, is very, very unfortunate. But however, I know that there's a 14 billion naira pension fund that was stolen by this same man when he headed Pencom. So yesterday's judgment was only on that he induced Fidelity Bank workers, to open a kind of fictitious account without due process. I'm sure that is what is serving the 8-year J10 for.
So
the
there are
14
more
billion issues those are on the way, because you cannot, at least, cut away money made for retirees and then go home to sleep and then end only 8 years. God will not permit that. And I'm sure that the law will still, maybe even in prison, You know, it's in this country that the body had an accident. Do you understand? Mena could be in prison, and then he will be taken out again for another judgment, and then maybe this time will be for life. That is.
Thank you very much, Professor Julius Iyasele. Big thanks, Solomon Diogbe, and of course, big thanks, Neville Obakedo. Well, a lot shared on this on set, and much we can't really take beyond this time. It's still this morning on ITV. Do stay with me.